Hello there. Today we are going to be reading and highlighting Lesson 1 of Unit 1, Earth in Motion. Take out your student reader and a highlighter or follow along on any sort of electronic device using Kami with the markup tool. We'll be looking at page number 4 where Lesson 1 begins. Exploring Space. Curiosity. When Clara Ma was 12 years old, she heard about a competition. This competition was to name a vehicle that would travel to the planet Mars. Mars is Earth's next-door neighbor in space. Scientists want to travel to Mars to explore it. Clara has always been fascinated by space. This includes the stars, the planets, and the universe. When she was little, her grandmother pointed out patterns in the stars. As she grew older, Clara continued to love space. She loved how mysterious and vast it was. No matter how much had been learned about it, there is always more to discover. As soon as Clara heard about the competition, she knew she would name the vehicle Curiosity. Curiosity is the passion that drives us through our everyday lives. We have become explorers and scientists with our need to ask questions and to wonder. Clara wrote in an essay she entered in the competition. She won, and in 2012, the vehicle Curiosity landed on Mars' surface. Who are scientists? Asking questions is something that all scientists do. This is because science is the search for explanations about the natural world. Scientists look for the causes of what they observe in the world around them. They use evidence to form conclusions that support those explanations. All knowledge learned from experiments is part of science. Science is part of a larger cycle that includes engineering, math, and technology. This cycle is called the STEM cycle. Engineers apply scientific knowledge to create new technologies that solve problems. Math is a tool that both scientists and engineers use to capture results and communicate those results to others. Following a scientific process. Scientists use a scientific process to guide them as they try to answer questions about the world around them. This process helps scientists go from a question to a data-based conclusion. Scientists begin with a question. Curiosity was on Mars to answer one big question. Did life ever exist on Mars? In order to answer that question, scientists needed to answer many smaller questions. Scientists conduct many experiments every year. Every year, the amount of scientific knowledge grows. Scientists use this existing knowledge to research their question. After scientists have researched their question, they form a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a statement that can be proved true or false. An example of a hypothesis is, life existed on Mars in the past. Another hypothesis is, life never existed on Mars. Scientists will then write a summary of the experiment they will conduct to test their hypothesis. An experiment is a procedure designed to test whether a hypothesis is true, false, or inconclusive. Inconclusive means that you can't tell it's true or false. There's not enough information to give you a true or false answer. They will also list materials needed and the procedure they will follow. A procedure is like a step-by-step recipe for the experiment. A good procedure will let someone else repeat the experiment exactly. Scientists also draw a scientific diagram. They do this so anyone can use the same materials and follow the same steps to get similar results. They also want to create a record of their thinking. Scientists used Curiosity to conduct experiments. These experiments try to prove or disprove the hypothesis that life existed on Mars in the past. As Curiosity conducts experiments, it is gathering data. Data are numbers and observation gathered from an experiment. Curiosity has different tools for gathering data. It has instruments to look at the rocks on Mars. It has drills that can collect powdered rock. It also has 17 cameras and can record video. Scientists use experiments to look for patterns in data. A pattern is something that happens in a regular and repeated way. A pattern sometimes shows a cause and effect relationship, where one event or thing is the result of another. After data has been collected, scientists form a conclusion. The conclusion uses data from the experiment to explain why the hypothesis is true, false, or inconclusive. So far, scientists have not found evidence to conclude that life has ever existed on Mars. However, they are continuing to search. Matter in space. Scientists have learned about the planets, stars, and other objects in space share some characteristics. For example, they are all matter. Matter is everything that has mass and takes up space. The sun and moon are matter. Even the air around you is a collection of all different types of matter. Matter is made up of tiny parts that are too small to be seen. These parts are called atoms. Many billions of atoms make up even a single grain of sand. Atoms join together in many different ways. The different ways that atoms join together make all of the matter in the universe. Two or more atoms joined together are called molecules. An element is a substance made up entirely of one type of atom. Helium gas is an element. Hydrogen is another element. Hydrogen and helium are the main elements that make up stars. There are 118 different kinds of elements. Each element has its own properties. Scientists work with elements and not atoms. Nobody has ever seen an atom. They are so tiny and fast that no camera has ever been able to take a good picture. Think about a grapefruit. If each atom in the grapefruit were the size of a blueberry, the grapefruit would have to be the size of Earth. There are so many atoms in just one grapefruit that they are impossible to count. Imagine having to fill up the entire planet with blueberries. That's about how many atoms are in one grapefruit. Atoms themselves are made up of smaller particles. There are 3 kinds of particles. These particles are called protons, neutrons, and electrons. They are much smaller than the atom itself. Because atoms are so tiny, scientists use scale to better understand the size of an atom, its smaller parts, and how it relates to everyday substances. Scale is the size, extent, or importance of something relative to something else. The protons and neutrons group together in the atom's core. The core is called the nucleus. If an atom was the size of a blueberry and you opened the blueberry up, the nucleus would be too small to be seen. But if you were to make that blueberry the size of a football field, you would just be able to see the nucleus. It would be the size of a small marble. The nucleus holds all of the atom's protons and neutrons. Structure of an atom. Most of the atom is filled with empty space. There are huge amounts of space between each of the electrons and between the electrons and the nucleus. The electrons are much smaller than the protons and the neutrons. They are in constant motion around the nucleus. Electrons travel around the nucleus like planets orbiting the sun. To orbit means to travel in a circle around an object. They move because electrons are attracted to protons. Electrons are attracted to protons because protons have a positive charge. Electrons have a negative charge. This can be understood by remembering that opposites attract. The positive charge of the protons attracts the negative charge of the electrons. Neutrons have a neutral charge. They pair with protons in the nucleus. Electrons orbit at different distances called shells. Electrons like to stay close to the nucleus. However, each shell can only hold a certain number of electrons. The farther a shell is from the nucleus, the more electrons it can hold. The shell closest to the nucleus holds 2 electrons. This shell is called K. The second shell holds 8 more. This shell is called L. The third shell holds 18. This shell is called M. Smaller atoms have fewer protons, neutrons, and electrons. For example, neon is a small atom that has 2 shells with 10 electrons. Radon is a large atom that has 6 shells with 86 electrons. An atom's atomic number is the number of protons it has. Searching for liquid water. Matter has different properties. A property is an observable or measurable characteristic of matter. A substance's properties are caused by the number and kind of atoms that make it up. For example, water is a molecule. It is made up of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Water's properties happen because of how the hydrogen and oxygen atoms join together. Water can be found as a solid, a liquid, or a gas. Those are the states of matter. We're going to write the letter H, a little 2, and then the letter 0, or O, for H2O. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. One of Curiosity's tasks is to look for liquid water on Mars. Scientists know that solid water, ice, is present on Mars. Now they want to see if liquid water has ever formed. Scientists are searching for liquid water because it is necessary for almost every known living thing. Without water, there would be no life on Earth. States of matter. Earth is unique. Unlike on Mars, water molecules are found almost everywhere on Earth in all 3 states. Water molecules make up the ice found in glaciers. They make up the liquid water in oceans. Water molecules also make up the water vapor gas that mixes with air. Ice is water's solid state. A solid has its own shape until something changes it by force. Solids such as ice hold their shape because the atoms that make them up are packed tightly together. They do not have enough energy to move past one another. Liquid water has no shape of its own. It takes the shape of its container. This is because the atoms in a liquid are close together but can slide past one another. This is why liquids flow. Water vapor is water's gas state. A gas takes the shape of whatever it is in. It will spread out to fill all of the space it is in, no matter how big the space is. This is because the atoms and gases are far apart and move with a lot of energy. Changing states. Water isn't the only molecule that can be a solid, liquid, and gas. Every atom and molecule can be turned into a solid, liquid, or gas when the right amount of heat is added or taken away. Matter changes state because of the amount of heat present. Heat causes the motion of atoms to change. When you add enough heat to a solid, it will become a liquid. When you add enough heat to a liquid, it will become a gas. If you take away enough heat from a gas, it will become a liquid. If you take away enough heat from a liquid, it will become a solid. And that is the end of lesson 1. Go ahead, make sure you have everything highlighted, and I'll catch you in the next video.